I'm bringing you an update on my experience with NOAX ID and track cleaning after 1 year of use on my layout on Ron's Trains and Things right now. Hi, I'm Ron of Ron's Trains and Things, and 1 year ago this week I brought you a video titled Stop Cleaning Your Track on Your Model Railroad. And in that video, I talked about a variety of different types of track cleaning, both methods and products, as well as the science of polar and non-polar solvents. I gave my personal recommendation for what I use for track cleaning, but I concluded that video by talking about a discussion of NOAX ID as a track treatment that might be able to help you eliminate track cleaning altogether. Well, today I want to give you an update of my experience with NOAX ID 1 year after applying it to my layout with absolutely no cleaning of that part of my layout. This video is brought to you by Midwest Model Railroad. Now with 15,000 square feet and 1-day shipping, they truly are your one-stop model railroad shop. MidwestModelRR.com. Link in the description. Now first, if you're not familiar with NOAX ID, let me just briefly say that it is a product that when applied to electrical contacts, it prohibits both oxidation and micro-arcing between the track and the wheels of the locomotives. Micro-arcing causes micro-pitting in the track, which promotes extra oxidation and really hurts the electrical conductivity of your track over time. NOAX is a product that helps you to maintain better electrical conductivity and the health of your track over time as you use it on your layout. For a further explanation of NOAX, be sure and check out that previous video. I'll link it in an end screen at the end of this video. If you haven't seen it, you'll want to check that out. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy and a lot of skepticism with products like NOAX for many people, so I know the proof really is in the pudding, and that's what this video is all about. Now, as I tell you about my experience, first let me describe how I applied NOAX on my layout so far. At the time that I made that video a year ago, I was in the midst of an expansion to the middle part of my layout. I'm still in the middle of building that expansion. But at that time, the track was disconnected between the two decks of my layout, thus you couldn't run trains from one end of the layout to the other. That being the case, I was still running trains regularly on the lower deck through the north yard section of my layout, especially for the sake of making videos. So when I went to make that track cleaning and NOAX video, I treated the lower deck of the older portion of my layout with NOAX on the main line and the main passing siding. The upper deck of my layout I did not treat with NOAX, nor have I treated the new track on the new expansions of the layout, which is now once again connecting the two decks together. So I have some older track that has been treated with NOAX, I have some older track that's not been treated with NOAX, and I have some new track that has not been treated as well. Now the reason why I haven't treated the rest of that track primarily is because I want to paint the track before I apply the NOAX, but it also gave me an opportunity to be able to compare some track that's been down for some time that hasn't been treated with some track that has. Now again, the title of that original video was Stop Cleaning Your Track. And so it's important for me to make very clear here that the section of my layout that has been treated with NOAX has not been cleaned over the course of the year. The one exception to that was there was a period of several months where I didn't run trains at all in my basement, and my basement can be rather dusty. So at one point I did run a soft lint-free cloth gently over the track just to remove dust. I didn't do any scrubbing, I didn't use any abrasives or any solvents, I didn't do any traditional track cleaning, just a very light dusting so as not to remove the NOAX from the track. And so with all of that said, the question remains, how are my trains running on the track that I treated a year ago with NOAX? Well, here is my answer. All of the locomotives on my layout run great on the section of track that was treated with NOAX, or at the very least, they run the best here. On the older portion of the top deck that's not been treated, those trains on that section of the layout run inconsistently unless I clean that track regularly. So over the course of a year, I have to say that I couldn't be happier with the performance of the track that's been treated with NOx, and it truly has not been cleaned. I also have experienced virtually no reduction in traction with the use of the NOx, but I'm going to talk a little more about that in just a few moments. Now, on that original video, I received over 500 comments, plus a number of emails and direct messages with both comments, testimonials, questions, objections to that original video. And I want to respond to just a few of the statements or questions that were brought up repeatedly through the course of those comments. First, with regard to the video, many people complained that it was too long and wordy, to which I only want to say this. My intention in that video was to explain the science of track cleaning and electrical conductivity, not just to tell you a product that I thought you should use or that I thought you shouldn't use, but rather why. So if that explanation was more than you wanted, I apologize for that, but I hope that I was able to give you a better understanding, not just of what products I use, but of why I use them. Now, in addition to that, I received dozens upon dozens of comments from people who tried NOx or had used NOx before and were extremely happy with the results that they got. In fact, a number of people expressed that they were nearly ready to walk away from the hobby in frustration because they could not keep their trains running, and that NOx made a huge difference in that problem on their layout. Of the dozens, I'm going to share with you just a couple of examples. The first is from a person with a channel named Flying Around St. Louis. And he says this: I admit I was skeptical at first. I've always been a Bright Boy user on my track and never really tried any other chemical solvent cleaners. But after getting increasingly frustrated at how poorly even my brand new locomotives were running, I decided to give this technique a try. In just an hour of cleaning my mainline track, the locomotives that I had relegated to sidetrack for permanent storage because they ran so poorly are now running more smoothly than any locomotive I've ever run anywhere. It's truly been a game changer for me and my layout. Thank you. And then another comment about someone who had been using NOx previously. This is from Dean of the Oregon Joint Line Model Railroad. That's a fantastic channel, by the way. And I want to say, I know that this layout is one that operates regularly with a regular experienced operating crew. So any problems with NOx would come out on this layout. Dean says this. He says, I've been using NOx for around 12 years with no real track cleaning and great performance. And then he goes on to say that he periodically uses Woodland Scenic's dust monkeys to take dust off of the rails, according to the problem that I mentioned earlier, having a dusty basement. So there's just two of, again, dozens of comments that I got of people who found that the track cleaning techniques that I gave, as well as the use of NOx, have made an absolute positive difference in their model railroading experience. A few people commented that the use of the NOx hurt traction on their layout or actually made their electrical conductivity worse. And upon questioning these people, in nearly every case, what I discovered that in both of those cases, the problem was they were using too much of the NOx. A very minor reduction in traction is pretty normal, but major reduction in traction should not happen. If it does happen, it probably means you've applied too much NOx to the track. If it reduced your electrical conductivity, then you absolutely applied far too much NOx to your track. In fact, as I showed in that original video, just a very thin film on your track is more than enough to do everything you need it to do on your track with the NOx ID. In fact, I apply a thin film with a finger, as you can see here, and then wipe it gently off so I don't have too much left on the track. You want just a microscopic layer on the track in order to protect the track from oxidation and micro-arcing and help promote good electrical conductivity. There were also some people people who commented on using NOAUX as a track cleaner, and I need to make sure to clarify here that NOAUX itself is not a track cleaner. You want to use a good non-polar track cleaner initially to get your tracks good and clean, to remove oxidation and other films that might be left behind from whatever scenery making or whatever processes that you have done on your layout. And then you apply the NOAUX as a track treatment for the sake of good electrical conductivity. The final comment that I want to respond to was something that I mentioned briefly, but I didn't really explain in the first video, and that is the use of NOAUX with traction tires. I did say at the end of the original video that I did not recommend using NOAUX with traction tires. I didn't really say why. Several people asked, and some commented that they thought the NOAUX would degrade the rubber in the traction tires. That is not the case. The NOAUX won't degrade the traction tires, but what it does is it does tend to collect more on the rubber traction tires than it does on the metal wheels, and it'll cause the traction tires to actually become slick, and thus it defeats the purpose of the traction tires in the first place. I don't really have a workaround for this particular situation, so if you're running steam engines and you're running traction tires, the NOAUX may not be the best solution for you. I wish I had something to recommend in its place. Unfortunately, I just do not at this time. So that's my report on NOAUX ID after 1 year of use. And in reality, the title of the original video has been essentially true. I have virtually stopped cleaning the track on that section of my layout, and I look forward to getting the rest of my layout track painted so I can apply NOAUX to the rest of the track and basically stop cleaning track in a traditional sense on my entire layout. Now, if you've not tried NOAUX ID yet, but you'd like to give it a try, I posted a link to where you can pick some up as my Amazon pick of the week in the description down below. I encourage you to check that out, as well as my Micromark promo code and tons of other valuable links, all in the description below. If you'd like to see that original video about track cleaning in NOAUX and other great model railroad content, check out the links on your screen, and be sure and join me Tuesdays as I bring you even more great model railroad videos. And I look forward to seeing you then. 10, Lizzie?